They crashed my lakeside piece with a stolen sunrise, champagne, and a hot tub on my dock. Carol and Harper, loud, entitled, and utterly convinced the rules didn't apply. They ignored warnings, laughed at safety, turned my sanctuary into their personal party swamp. I tried being nice. I tried being firm. Nothing worked. So I stopped talking. What happened next wasn't confrontation. It was colder, quieter, and infinitely more satisfying. Watch as two lake queens learn the hard way that trespassing on private property has consequences, and sometimes justice arrives silently, drifting away on the current. How far would you go to reclaim your peace? The lake served it colder than their champagne. Steam, thick, choking clouds of it, and laughter, shrill, grating laughter that shattered the dawn silence. I froze on my porch steps. My dock, my private dock, wasn't empty. It was occupied by a massive, bubbling hot tub. And inside, two women sipping champagne like they owned the place. They didn't. They dragged it here. Uninvited. Unwanted. And what happened next? Let's just say, they learned why you don't mess with a woman who rebuilt her piece plank by plank. I had bought this lake house 3 years ago as my getaway, my sanity. It was remote, quiet, surrounded by pines and songbirds. A place where silence wasn't just possible, it was sacred. That dock, especially, was my sanctuary. But looking at it now, sagging under a leopard print rhinestone invasion, I felt a violation that ran deeper than mere trespassing. The dock groaned under their combined weight, every creak a knife twist. I'd sanded those planks myself, stained them at sunset while herons fished nearby. Inside the tub sat two very large women, both probably around 40 years old. Clearly sisters, twins, actually. Their resemblance was uncanny. Same pudgy arms slung over the tub sides, same round cheeks flushed with smugness. Same high-pitched laugh that pierced the dawn like a siren. One wore a shiny blue swimming dress. The other a loud purple swimsuit that clung to her like cellophane on a balloon. They didn't notice me at first. Carol, the one in blue, had a plastic champagne flute in one hand and a Bluetooth speaker floating beside her. Harper, the one in purple, was leaning back with her eyes closed, soaking in the early morning calm that she didn't earn. I cleared my throat. Nothing. I stepped closer. Excuse me. Carol finally looked up, giving me a slow once-over like I was the trespasser. Harper didn't even bother turning her head. Morning, she grinned, too wide to be friendly. Hope we're not disturbing you? I stared at the tub crushing my dock, the one I'd rebuilt after the storm. You put a hot tub on my property. Oh, this? Carol gestured around as if it had floated here magically. Yeah, we figured it was going to waste. Nobody was using it. You should really thank us for bringing life to the place. Harper chuckled without opening her eyes. It's basically public anyway. You don't own the lake, I own the dock. Carol waved a dismissive hand. Relax. It's basically public. I stood there stunned. Part of me wanted to scream. Another part just wanted to walk back inside and pretend this wasn't happening. But I wasn't that person. Not anymore. The piece had officially ended last week. A white SUV barreled down the gravel road like it owned the place. It skidded into the driveway of the rental house 2 doors down. Doors flew open, and out came what I can only describe as a walking sitcom. Carol and Harper, loud, and louder, both obese, both dragging suitcases with leopard print and rhinestones, both shouting at each other like they were in front of a laugh track. Their first move, set up lawn chairs facing the lake, plop open a speaker, and start blasting what I assumed was either 90s club hits or some off-brand remix channel. Day one, and they'd already launched beer cans into the brush and left a pile of hot Cheeto bags near the road. I tried being polite. I gave them the small-town wave. They squinted at me like I was a UFO. That evening, I was grilling on my deck when they wandered over uninvited. Carol introduced herself by grabbing a sausage off my plate and saying, "Hey neighbor, we're the new lake queens." Harper laughed like it was the best joke she'd ever heard. "We were wondering if we could use that dock of yours," Carol said mouthful. "It's closer to the good sun angle." "It's private property," I replied. Harper tilted her head. but you're not using it right now. I'm going to be, I said. They exchanged glances, shrugged, and walked away. I figured that was the end of it. Then the generator showed up. 2 days later, a rumbling sound woke me before sunrise. I looked out the window and saw a portable generator sitting in the grass near the edge of my property. Carol and Harper were dragging extension cords toward the dock. I watched them loop anchor straps over the dock's edge too loose, in the wrong spots. Amateurs. I knew every weak point in this wood, knew how currents tugged at the pylons after rain. I grabbed a coat and hurried out. "What the hell is this?" I asked. "Our new spa setup," Carol said like she was announcing a game show prize. "We found this tub on Facebook Marketplace. Got it cheap. And since we don't have dock access at the rental, well," she grinned like it was the most logical solution in the world. "I told you already," I said. "The dock is private. It's not for communal use." Harper scoffed. "Relax, Captain Rules. It's not like we're living out there. Just a soak now and then. You act like we're draining your life force or something. You're plugging into a gas generator on a wooden dock right above water," I snapped. "You could blow yourselves up." Carol rolled her eyes. "Then you get the dock back. Problem solved." And just like that, they turned their backs and kept setting up. By that night, the hot tub was filled, steaming, and in full use. Lights glowed beneath the surface. A plastic flamingo bobbed on the edge. They blared music, played cards, shouted across the lake to startled paddleboarders. I filed a noise complaint. The sheriff never came. The next morning, a neighbor's kid tried to fish near my dock. Harper splashed water toward him and yelled, "Back off, guppy boy. This ain't your swimming hole." The kid left in tears. That was the breaking point. I approached one last time with printed rules, liability laws, local ordinances, fire codes. Carol skimmed them and laughed like she just read a knock-knock joke. "Sweetie," she said, "your obsession with paperwork is adorable. I'm serious. I said that thing isn't safe here. You're not insured. If anything happens, I'm liable." Harper looked up from her phone. "You know what's not safe? Your attitude. You need to chill, or better yet, join us. You could use a little steam therapy." They burst out laughing. I stood there seething, trying to hold it in. Every instinct in me said this would not end peacefully. These two didn't understand boundaries. They didn't care about rules. To them, everything was theirs until someone physically removed them. And even then, they complained. That evening, I sat on my porch watching the tub bob slightly as they climbed in again. Carol sloshed champagne over the side. Harper posted a video to social media. Hot tub queens take over the lake with duck lip selfies and glitter filters. I watched the light dim behind the trees as the generator hummed like a lurking beast. My dock sagged under the weight, creaked with each shift. A storm was in the forecast, but I wasn't going to wait for rain or fire or worse. They wanted to float. Fine, let them. And that's when the idea hit me. Clean. Simple. No confrontation, no yelling, no lawsuits, just physics. Let nature take its course with a little help. And as I watched them soak in stolen comfort, completely oblivious, I smiled for the first time in days. They wouldn't see it coming. The next morning, I tried to take the high road. Maybe there was still a sliver of diplomacy left. I printed out the dock's safety regulations again, highlighted the weight limits, copied the fire hazard warnings for using electrical equipment near water, and even attached a note with a smiley face. I slid the papers into a waterproof folder and walked down toward the dock like some exhausted park ranger. Carol and Harper were already soaking in the tub, their shoulders bobbing like small islands in a foamy sea of bath oils and bubbles. Carol had a pair of oversized sunglasses on and was sipping from a pineapple-shaped cup. Harper was filming another video for what I now knew was her Instagram account. "Hey there, neighbor." Carol chirped without looking at me. I held out the regulations. "This tub exceeds the weight limit. 1 cracked plank and you're in freezing water." Carol snatched the folder, flipped a page, then dropped it into the lake. Ink bled like a wound. "Oops," she smirked. "Relax, Captain Rules. We're basically doing you a favor." As I turned and walked away, I could hear them laughing, clinking plastic glasses together like villains in a cartoon. I was beginning to realize that talking to them was like arguing with a clogged drain. Loud, messy, and guaranteed to back up. That night, things escalated. They invited guests. At least 4 other people showed up in swimsuits, including one man who attempted to climb onto the dock using my kayak as a ladder. I watched from the shadows of my living room. Arms crossed, seething. The dock shifted and sagged under the added weight, and I could hear the joints creak like groaning bones. They brought soap. Bubbles foamed over the edge, floating out into the water like an accidental foam party. At some point, someone started a mini karaoke session using a waterproof speaker. By the time they finally stumbled back to the rental, the tub was still running, lights glowing beneath the surface like some nuclear reactor on the verge of meltdown. The next morning, I saw the aftermath. Empty wine bottles on the dock, wet towels strewn everywhere. My kayak half submerged, tied with a bungee cord to one of the tub's support rails. I had to face facts. Peace was no longer an option. I spent the afternoon gathering information. I scoured the tub's model number from a blurry photo I'd taken and found the manual online. It needed a flat, solid foundation, not a wooden surface prone to sway. The recommended weight limit per square foot, half of what that dock could hold. I checked the power ratings. The hot tub's heating unit drew more amps than that tiny gas generator should legally or safely provide. One misfire, one overloaded wire, and the whole setup could spark into flames. I contacted the homeowners association, but they informed me that since the women were renting from a private property owner outside the HOA boundaries, there wasn't much they could do. I filed another complaint with the county inspector's office, this time including photos and safety concerns, but they said someone would follow up in a few weeks. Weeks? I didn't have weeks. I had maybe days before they set the entire dock ablaze with their boiling swamp cauldron. That's when the idea started to form. Not a petty revenge, not violence, but a lesson. One rooted in poetic justice. Something that didn't require breaking laws or starting fights, just repositioning a few variables, letting gravity and water do what they do best. I waited until Tuesday. I'd learned by now that Tuesday mornings were their grocery run. They left around 10:12 a.m. in their white SUV, music thumping through open windows. The moment their car turned the bend, I sprang into action. I unplugged the generator carefully. Then I coiled the cables and left them nearby. I removed 2 of the tub's anchor straps, the ones keeping it firmly tethered to the dock's edge. I left the 3rd strap just loose enough to allow sway, not breakage. The current wasn't strong, but with the right positioning, I knew the lake would nudge the tub ever so slightly outward. Then I checked the planks beneath it. The wood creaked ominously, but it would hold, just fairly. I took out a permanent marker and scrolled a neat note on a waterproof sign. Dock undergoing maintenance. Use at your own risk. I planted it into the soil right at the dock start. A courtesy, a warning, and the setup for the punchline. By noon, they were back. Did someone move our stuff? Harper called, arms full of takeout bags. The jets feel different. Carol shrugged, already stepping into the tub. Whatever. I need this soak. Shopping was a nightmare. No one in town has Plus's wetsuits. Harper dropped into the tub with a heavy splash. The water sloshed over the edge, soaking one of my lawn chairs they had borrowed. They didn't notice the loose anchor rope. They didn't notice the sign. They didn't even notice the way the tub swayed more than usual. I sat on my porch, silent, watching through the slats of my railing. The lake was calm, the air still, every detail perfect. Did you post our new spa shot yet? Carol asked. Yeah, Harper replied. #Lake Queens. They toasted invisible glasses and leaned back, eyes closed, steam curling around them like a cloak. Then, as if nudged by an unseen hand, the hot tub shifted. Just an inch. Then another. Harper blinked and sat up. Hey, are we moving? Carol frowned. I don't think so. Another inch. The current, lazy but insistent, tugged the tub. The 3rd rope, the only one left, strained against its knot. Harper looked toward the dock. I swear we were closer to the chairs a second ago. Carol waved a hand. You're being paranoid. Relax. But I could see it happening. The moment, the inevitable break. The rope slipped loose. The current took hold. The hot tub with both women inside began to drift slowly, gracefully away from the dock. The tub lurched. Harper's phone plopped into the water. "We're moving," she shrieked. Carol paddled wildly with a flamingo flow tie, useless. The dock shrank behind them. "Help!" A kayaker filmed. "Y'all need a tow?" he yelled, laughing. Harper screamed back, "This isn't funny." But the lake, the neighbors, even the damn seagulls knew it was. They didn't notice it for another 30 seconds. Then Harper screamed, "Carol, we're floating." What the hell is happening?" Carol shot upright. "Oh my God, we're not attached anymore. Where's the rope? Where's the rope?" They scrambled, water splashing, plastic cups flying. Harper grabbed for the edge of the dock, but missed. The tub bobbed out another few feet. "Turn it off. Turn off the jets." "I can't. It's not plugged in anymore." Their panicked voices echoed across the lake. From a nearby dock, a kayaker raised their phone and started filming. I didn't smile. Not yet. But inside, a quiet satisfaction bloomed. Not because they were scared, not because they were humiliated. Because for once, they were finally off my dock and drifting fast. Where the lake would take them next. That wasn't my problem. Not anymore. The hot tub spun gently as it floated farther into the lake, carried by the slow but determined current. Carol and Harper shrieked in disbelief, gripping the sides of the tub like passengers on a sinking cruise liner. Their plastic drink cups bobbed beside them, one already drifting out of reach. Harper's freshly curled hair now hung in damp, stringy clumps, and Carol's sunglasses had slipped crooked across her face, making her look more like a confused raccoon than a queen of the lake. "Do something," Harper barked, slapping the water with both hands like a toddler. "We're drifting, Carol. We're actually drifting." Carol twisted around, red-faced and dripping, scanning the shoreline. "How are we moving?" "We were tethered." "You tied it, didn't you?" "I thought you tied it." They shouted over each other, panic overtaking whatever ounce of composure they had left. But the dock was already 20 foot behind them and getting farther by the second. The tub bobbed and turned slowly, giving them a full panoramic view of their humiliation. I stayed on the porch, leaned back in my chair, sipping lukewarm tea like it was a front-row cocktail at the theater. The entire lake, once the quiet haven they tried to colonize, was now their stage, and every neighbor within view, their unamused audience. Boaters began to notice first. A pair of teenagers in a paddleboat stared in disbelief as the massive tub glided past like a stranded UFO. One pulled out a phone. Click. Record. Carol waved both arms frantically. "Help. We're not supposed to be out here." The boy called back, grinning, "You look comfy, though." More phones came out. A pontoon boat slowed to watch, the passengers laughing and pointing. One woman nearly crying with laughter as she said, "I've seen everything now." Harper's face twisted with rage and embarrassment. "This isn't funny." "Someone get a rope." "You have a rope," a guy yelled back. "You're in a hot tub. You're practically in a floating bucket. We need to call for help." Harper pulled her phone from a waterproof pouch around her neck. Her thumbs fumbled across the screen. "I've got no bars and no bars." She shouted like it was a national crisis. Carol's phone had already sunk. I watched her glance into the water, lips trembling. "I dropped mine," she mumbled. Harper slumped against the side, soaking wet and furious. "This is all your fault. You were supposed to double knot the line. And you were supposed to be smart enough not to get in the tug while it was drifting." They fought like soaked raccoons in a kiddie pool, shoving and splashing until Harper nearly slipped under. For one terrifying second, she disappeared beneath the foam, but surfaced again, gasping and cursing. Farther and farther, the tub floated, the steam now long gone, and the water cooling fast in the open air. Their shouts turned from furious to frantic. I watched from the dock, camera in hand, recording the moment with quiet satisfaction. Not to share, not yet, but just for myself as proof. The poetic justice was unfolding perfectly. It took another 20 minutes before the lake patrol arrived, probably summoned by one of the boars, who'd gotten tired of watching the reality show float by. A small rescue boat pulled up alongside the hot tub. The driver looked more confused than concerned. "You ladies all right?" he asked through a megaphone. Harper screamed. "And oh, we're not all right. Get us off this death bucket." The patrol officer tried not to laugh. He tossed them a rope, tied it to the side rail of the hot tub, and slowly began towing them back to shore. Their return was anything but quiet. The entire bay watched, some people clapping mockingly, others shaking their heads. The spectacle wasn't just humiliating, it was legendary. I met them back at the edge of my property. The hot tub was now half drained and sagging at one corner. Carol climbed out first, stumbling across the muddy grass, her blue swimming dress clinging to every curve. Harper followed, limping slightly, purple swimsuit covered in goosebumps. Both were drenched red-faced and silent with fury. They stomped up to me, leaving wet footprints on my dock. "You think this is funny?" Carol hissed, water dripping from her chin. I didn't flinch. "Actually, yeah, a little bit." Harper pointed a shaking finger at me. "You unplugged it. You set us adrift." I tilted my head. "I warned you the dock wasn't stable. I posted a sign." Carol's eyes narrowed. "You'll pay for this." I nodded slowly. "You're right. I will." With silence and sunshine and the glorious absence of screaming banshees in my backyard, they looked around. A few neighbors had gathered by now, watching from porches and docks. Some were grinning, others openly laughing. One even recorded their march of shame, narrating in a mock documentary voice. And here we see the rare Lake Karens returning to land. Carol and Harper stood frozen in place, outnumbered, outclassed, and undeniably out of control. They turned sharply and stormed back to the rental, the dock groaning under their weight one last time. By the next morning, the hot tub was gone, towed off by the same delivery truck that had brought it. The generator disappeared, too. I noticed the rental owner's car parked out front, probably responding to several neighbor complaints and one very viral video. Yes, it had gone viral. One of the kayakers had posted the footage online. Within hours, it hit the front page of a local Facebook group, then made its way to Reddit. The title, "Entitled Sisters Think They Own the Lake." Hot tub karma hits hard. Thousands of likes, hundreds of comments, memes were made, GIFs created. The internet did what it does best. Carol and Harper didn't show their faces outside for 2 days. On the third, they packed their SUV with their rainbow luggage and drove off, music off, heads down. The dock was quiet again. The scars on the dock, scratches, cracked planks, the ghost of soap towels were still visible, but they'd heal. I thought about justice. Not the loud kind with shouting and courtroom drama, but the slow, subtle kind that rides in on the wind and drifts across a lake. I planted the sign at the dock's entrance, "Private property. Unauthorized hot tubs will be released into the wild." Sunset bled gold over the water. No generators. No screaming. Just the lapping of waves against my dock, finally healing. Sometimes karma doesn't yell. It just unplugs your anchor.